Am I the a-hole for wanting to charge an 11-year-old for theft and destruction of property? So about a week and a half ago, my son's phone was taken from his bag at primary school. I managed to track it using Find My iPhone, and it led me to a house. From that house, I banged on the front door and was answered by a mom. I explained that I tracked my son's phone to this house, and from there discovered her son and 2 of his friends had just been there. She calls him, and then I follow her in my car to a second kid's house. At this house, all 3 kids are there, and I tell them I don't care who stole it. Just hand it back and it's done. All 3 kids swear black and blue that they have never seen it and know nothing about it. I exchange numbers with the mom from the first house and the dad from the second house. Then I have to leave knowing full well one of them has it. I get home and receive a call from the mom from the first house. She has checked the security cameras from her house and discovered the kid from the second house, who swore that they have never had a phone, is miraculously holding a phone in the footage. This has already been sent to the dad, and next minute I get a message from the guilty kid's mom asking if she can come to my house. Her and her son arrive teary-eyed and apologetic. I just ask for the phone back, and she shakes her head saying that he has smashed and destroyed it. It was only an iPhone SE, so not expensive, but as a single mom working full-time, it was my means of communication with my son. She asks if she can go buy me a phone now, but I ask if she just contributes $100 and I'll find a similar phone off Marketplace, as I prefer an iPhone since I connect it to mine and can monitor parental controls and other settings. She agrees and is happy to pay that. It has been over a week now, and she has stopped replying to any messages and won't answer any calls. Last message I sent was me saying if I didn't receive payment, I would report and charge her 11-year-old son. So am I the a-hole if I charge him for theft and destruction of property? Also, as a side note, I have camera footage, admission of guilt in her text messages, and her agreeing she would pay, as well as her son admitting to the school that he stole it. So I have enough evidence to go forward. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Actions have consequences. You have been more than reasonable. If money was tight or there was some issue with getting you cash, she should have spoken up about it. Yes, except now the price has gone up to a new phone, not $100 used one from Marketplace. I had a very minor fender bender years ago on my old car. Owner of the car that hit me, brother was driving, decided to be an a-hole, so I went out for everything. Instead of just touching up a minor dent, it now had to be properly replaced in a body shop. Repair bill and rental car eventually cost 4 times as much. I've been through this with my daughter. We sent the police. Never happened again, and the offender left all my daughters alone after that. Here we have a first-hand account of how this is supposed to be dealt with. Going back and forth with the mom serves no purpose. Having the police involved absolutely does serve a purpose. In fact, it might just scare the little bugger into not being quite as big an arswipe. Yeah, I don't care if the mom pays for it. This boy purposefully stole and destroyed the phone. He needs real-world consequences, and possibly an investigation into his home life. Absolutely press charges. Now for the update. So after not responding to my messages for over a week, I messaged last night saying I was going to the police in the morning to make a report, and the money was transferred this morning. I read all the comments asking why I didn't report first, and it's because I guess I waited so long as I still want to think people will do the decent thing, and didn't want to have to go down the police road for a minor amount, as they have more important things to do. At the end of the day, though, I'm not going to raise my son to be walked all over and to stick to your word. But all sorted now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife entitled and not standing up for her when my mom's boyfriend yelled at her? My wife and I are going through a rough patch right now. We recently ended up in a financial predicament and could no longer afford our apartment. My mom opened her home to us. It's been tough, but my mom has been great, helping with childcare and never making us feel bad. The issue is my mom's boyfriend, Brian. My mom goes out about once a week with a friend, and he has been having people over. He has a very good friend, Christine, who seems like a nice enough person, but she puts everything in her mouth. I am not exaggerating when I say everything. She was over for Thanksgiving, and I ran to the liquor store with Brian, and when we came back, my mom was annoyed because Christine put her mouth on her pie. Her expensive Canada Goose jacket has actual teeth prints. I'd call it compulsive. My wife Rachel thinks it's gross, because obviously it is, and because we have a young child. She is kind of a hypochondriac and is terrified of our son getting sick. Rachel recently asked my mom to ban Christine from the house while we are living there. My mom said she can't ban his best friend. Rachel pointed out that my mom owns the house, not Brian. My mom said that's controlling and weird. Well, last night my mom went to her friend's house, and Brian had people over, 2 guys and Christine. Rachel asked him not to invite her as our son has a cold, and she doesn't want him to get any sicker. He said he would talk to her, which he has already tried. Rachel got annoyed and said he is stupid and childish, and it isn't his house. She called him a loser who mooches off his girlfriend. Brian laughed and said maybe she should shut her stupid mouth as he pays for almost everything, and it was my mom's choice for him to move in with her versus the other way around. He called her entitled and said he can have anyone he likes over in the house he pays for. Rachel was close to tears and asked why I didn't defend her. I told her the truth, that their financial arrangements are none of her business, and she was being entitled. She accused me of not caring about our son's health and of being afraid of Brian. Now she wants me to talk to my mom, but the truth is, I don't want to. He has a very good friend, Christine, who seems like a nice enough person, but she puts everything in her mouth. What? I'm going to go with everyone sucks here except for your son, who is too little, and your mom who wasn't around. Brian was nasty to your wife. Your wife was even nastier to Brian in a home that she is a guest in. You are letting your wife walk all over you. And Christine puts everything in her mouth? Wow. Is it nasty to point out when someone is being a hypocrite? Brian didn't say anything that didn't need to be said. There is a grown person going around putting everything in their mouth. That's what needs to be said. Jesus, what the heck? I mean, if she stops at that, it would be okay. But said his house wasn't his, and that he was mooching of her mother-in-law, which wasn't true, and is hypocrite of her since she is the homeless person, living in someone else's house as a favor. If you're homeless and the person who opened up their home for you has a weird friend who comes over, who isn't on drugs or violent, you keep your mouth shut and sit in the room and silently write down everything they put in their mouth, and then you disinfect with Clorox wipes the next day, or toss like the pie. Not the a-hole. OP's wife was rude. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calmly calling my brother-in-law a self-loathing POS at Thanksgiving dinner after years of jokes about my brother? I, 27 female, have a brother-in-law, 32 male, who, for as long as I've known him, has made constant jokes comparing himself to my younger brother, 22 male. My brother is finishing up pre-med, and from the outside, looks like he has his life together. My brother-in-law works part-time while trying to launch different business ideas, and that gap has clearly been a sore spot for him. Every comment is brushed off as humor. Everyone laughs awkwardly and moves on. No one ever actually addresses it. This happened over Thanksgiving weekend at a family dinner. I'd already had a long, emotionally draining day before we even sat down to eat. I was tired, hungry, and honestly running on fumes. I just wanted to get through dinner without drama. Halfway through the meal, he made another comment, something along the lines of, "At this point, I should just let your brother run my life, since he's clearly got everything figured out." The usual forced chuckles followed. Something in me just kind of snapped. I didn't raise my voice or anything, and without missing a beat said calmly, "You're a self-loathing POS, and it's exhausting listening to you project your issues onto my brother every time we're together." Silence. I kept eating and didn't engage further. My sister immediately said I was rude and completely out of line. She said he only makes those comments because he's struggling, that he works part-time while trying to get a business off the ground, and that it's hard for him watching my brother finish pre-med and have his life sorted out. The rest of the night was uncomfortable. No one defended him, but no one defended me either. Afterward, my younger brother came to me privately and said, "Thank you." He told me he appreciated it, but that he'd honestly gotten used to the comments at this point and just learned to tune them out. That part made me feel even worse, realizing he'd been quietly carrying that discomfort for years. Now my family's still upset with me. They say I ruined Thanksgiving, embarrassed my sister, and that I should apologize to keep the peace. I'm being told I was cruel and that I should have shown more compassion. I know the words I used were harsh. I know the timing was bad, but I'm also tired of pretending it's okay. Am I the a-hole? Your brother-in-law is masking his insecurities with jokes. Grown man, by the way. Which frustrates me even more. Started comparing himself when my brother was 20, and I feel terrible for not doing more for him even though I'm not always around. I think in your position, I would write a text to brother-in-law and sister and say, "Brother-in-law, I do apologize for what happened at Thanksgiving. I should have said something years ago about how your petty comments make everyone uncomfortable and are rude and unfair to brother. If I had done so then, I wouldn't have snapped last week and could have called you out more privately. I'm not sorry for calling you on behaving badly, but I am sorry for the way I did it. Going forward, I hope we can both keep a civil tongue during family gatherings. That's the apology I'd give." Everyone else enabling him is making him even more self-conscious of his lack of progress all the time. Share the load with your brother, not the a-hole. And worst part, we've tried talking to him about his business, but he just feels like he's going to make it big, and we're all haters and scared of taking risks like him. He sounds ridiculously immature. If you are the most bothered by it, let it go for now and just wait. He will likely be a ne'er-do-well for life, and as he ages and your brother becomes successful, those brags about his business prowess will fade into oblivion. Reality is often the best revenge. Last story. Am I the a-hole for confronting my mom about an inside joke my family had about me that I didn't know? My boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 26 female, attended my family's Thanksgiving this year after not going last year because we went to his family's house. My whole extended family was there, and we had a lot of fun at first, but a ton of my older relatives kept saying how big the ham was last year and laughing. This was kind of weird to me, because we've always been turkey people, but one of my younger cousins did start helping cook 2 years ago, so maybe he introduced something new and no one liked it? They were kind of making the same joke at Christmas Eve, my uncle's 60th birthday party in August, and my little cousin's graduation party in May. However, the ham jokes reached a new high at Thanksgiving. So, finally, I turned to my cousin Jenny, 25 female, who I'm pretty close with, and asked her about what happened last year with this ham. Jenny immediately said it wasn't that funny, but she looked uncomfortable about it. In fact, when I looked around, most of my cousins sort of looked uncomfortable about it when they would say the ham line again. When I went back for more food, I saw my brother, 30 male, in the kitchen and asked him about it. But he was at his wife's family's house the year prior as well, so he didn't know either. I had a really hard time brushing it off, but I assumed it was some weird, inappropriate joke that the older people in my family found funny. It wasn't until after dinner that Jenny ran into me going out of the upstairs bathroom that she finally broke down crying and told me what it was they were saying. Basically, last year my uncle had commented to my mom about how much weight it looked like I gained in a recent Instagram story, where my boyfriend and I were lifting up the huge ham his family made. My mom then said something about how that ham, me, has been the biggest one in the family for a while. The whole family heard and all the aunts and uncles laughed. For context, not that it's really needed, I had gained some weight last year and some more this year, but I know I am certainly far from overweight, despite my insecurities about my body. Jenny then piped up about how they shouldn't say cruel things when I'm not around to defend myself. They all came down on her telling her to learn to take a joke. Later that night, my mom rounded up all of my cousins and told them she shouldn't have made the joke and to keep it between them. They all sort of agreed and didn't expect the joke to come up again. But it did, at every family thing, all year. Jenny told me she couldn't take me not knowing anymore, but begged me not to say anything. She's never very big on confrontation. I said I would keep it to myself for now, but I was pissed, and my boyfriend and I left early without a lot of goodbyes. I told him in the car and he insisted I couldn't just keep that to myself, but told me to cool off a bit before I say anything to my mom. Fast forward to the next day and I called my mom to confront her about it. I told her how upset I was, that she would not only make a joke like that to my family, but also let it keep going right in front of me. She knew I've been having some serious insecurities about changing weight and freaking out over needing to buy a whole new wardrobe over the past year because none of my old clothes fit me anymore. She immediately asked me who told me. I told her it didn't matter. What matters is what happened and what she said. She insisted she tried to shut it down, but she can't control her siblings and their spouses. They're free people, and they can say what they want. Then she asked again who told me. After the same back and forth of half-assed non-apologies, and insisting I say who told me about the joke for 30 minutes, I ended the call. For a week, I had been avoiding the whole family, except for my brother, who was also outraged on my behalf when I told him about it. It wasn't until 2 days ago that I got a call out of nowhere from Jenny after work. She immediately started laying into me the second I answered the phone. She was pissed I told my mom that I knew because she had just gotten off the phone with my mom, who was pissed at her for breaking her promise and telling me. Apparently, over the last week, between work and her activities, my mom has been systematically calling my entire family to find out who squealed. She hadn't Sherlocked her way into finding out it was my cousin, but Jenny broke the minute she got on the phone with my mom and heard she was angry. Now my mom is extremely mad at Jenny, and Jenny is even more mad at me for confronting her and getting her in trouble. Now everyone in both of our families, except my brother and his wife, is telling me I ruined Christmas this year because now they can't spend the holiday with us because of the tension. So am I the a-hole? Because I just don't even know what to do at this point. I thought I was doing what was best for me by confronting my mom, but it's turned into this whole big thing, and I'm so confused and angry. Not the a-hole. Don't associate with these people anymore. They don't respect you and treat you like a joke. They're horrible. I'm sure you can find better people to spend the holidays with. Both my boyfriend's family and my sister-in-law's family have already extended invites to me because there is no way I'm going to anything my family does for a while. So instead of your mom apologizing, she went around to the entire family to find out who told on them about a crappy joke? Wow, your mom is a piece of work. I'm so sorry. They are all awful. I'm familiar with this scenario. You speak up to defend yourself and you are the problem, not the actual bully. We crave love and acceptance from our family, but sometimes they just aren't capable of it. Classic Darvo. The mom is narcissistic. Am I the a-hole because I didn't make sure my son has an inheritance? I'm 55 male, have 1 biological child, 29 male, and 2 stepchildren, 16 male and 12 female. My wife's first husband was killed in an accident while on his way to work offshore. Her husband had a very large life insurance policy, of which she was the sole beneficiary. He traveled overseas at times, and one of the oil companies he sometimes worked for required it, so his employer paid for it. It was for £1 million with triple indemnity. She ended up with slightly over $5 million from that policy alone. They also had a smaller policy, which they paid for, worth nearly $1 million, of which she was also the sole beneficiary. She and her children received settlements from his company, and she also gets monthly Social Security survivor benefits for her children. She has all of this money invested and receives periodic payments from it. All of that is her separate property. My wife bought and maintains the house we live in with her separate money, so it is hers alone. We spend our salaries on our cars, living expenses, vacations, and things like that. About a month ago, my son mentioned that he was expecting that he'd get half of our house and her kids would each get 25% when we died. He also thought that I, and therefore he, was entitled to part of her separate property. I explained to him that the house is hers, paid for by income from her separate property, and that her children would inherit the house. I also explained that all of her investments are separate property and that I have no claim to them. He initially expressed concern for me in the event that I outlived her. She has granted me the right to use the house, and I would receive a monthly income from her investments, but her children would inherit the house and money after we both died. I explained that we keep our salaries separate. She pays 100% of the house and upkeep. Anything that benefits us and the kids is split, with her paying 3/4 and me paying 1/4. If it benefits only her and me, we split it 50-50. Sometimes she pays everything if it's something that is mostly for the kids' benefit. For example, if we go on a vacation, she'll pay for the accommodations and activities, and we'll just split the food. If you count all her income, salary, separate property, and social security, my salary is only about 20% of our combined income. He blew up and said that I should have insisted that we use our salaries to pay for the house, put it in both of our names, and made her spend her money on other expenses. He's very angry that I'm pissing all my money away on my stepchildren, and he currently isn't speaking to me and is refusing to come over at all during the holidays. Am I the a-hole for not negotiating with my wife to make sure he had a bigger inheritance? He will get something. He'll definitely get a whole life insurance policy, $25,000, and whatever cash I have in my checking account, usually a few $1,000s. Edited to add, my annual salary is about $60,000. Before I married my wife, I lived in an apartment and drove a 12-year-old car. My life is drastically different since I married her, but I like to pay my own way as much as I can. Now for the top comments. Your son sounds like an entitled little turd. Maybe suggest he makes his own way in the world and stop planning to use an inheritance he isn't getting. Absolutely. Even though OP didn't give a timeline, just going by the kids' ages, OP's wife and stepchildren weren't even in OP's life before his biological son was an adult. How could the son ever have come up with the delusion that his father could afford that house and that he'd inherit half of it, plus part of her other assets? We've been married for 5 years. I live in the UK, and in Scotland, it's almost impossible to cut your kids out entirely. But in England, you can cut them out very easily. He is behaving like an entitled douche, and I'd be inclined, if you can, to introduce him to no inheritance at all. There is an a-hole in this scenario, OP. It just isn't you. We are in the US. Essentially, my wife owns the house we live in and pays all the upkeep with income from investments that are her separate property. I don't own any part of it and am not entitled to any part of it. She is leaving her property to her children. I am leaving my son nearly my entire estate. I just don't have much compared to my wife. I have a whole life insurance policy, my car, my checking account, and my personal belongings. I do specify that all household furnishings are left solely to my wife, except for a cedar chest that belonged to my grandmother. My wife paid for pretty much everything in the house anyway. I just didn't want there to be any question about whether the sofa was hers alone or ours. OP, do you not have any retirement savings? It doesn't change the not the a-hole judgment, but I'm a bit curious. It sounds a little like your wife could change her will or divorce you, and you'd be left in the cold with more or less nothing. Not saying she would, but it's a vulnerability that might be part of your son's legitimate concern, which vanished behind his entitlement once he heard you had assurances in your wife's will. I have a 401k. My son is the beneficiary of that too. I just don't really think of that as part of his future inheritance because I plan to use it when I retire. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share inheritance with sisters because they told me that it is a son's duty to take care of parents? I am a 30-year-old male with 2 elder sisters, aged 33 and 36. Both are married and have children. They are doing well in life. One runs a successful business, and the other is a banker. I left my MBA when my mom had a stroke and my dad became sick. My sisters barely took care of them, as in our culture, sons are expected to take care of parents. However, our parents invested equally in our education and marriage funds. They gave us equal opportunities, and my sisters' marriages were fully paid for by them. I had to leave my MBA and take a job nearby so I could take care of my parents. My parents once shared their will, stating that everything would be divided equally among the children. But disappointed by my sisters, they changed it. First, my mom passed away, and later my dad, within a span of 2 months. My parents were government officers, had great pensions, and saved well. When the lawyers finally revealed the will, they left me the house, which is very valuable as it is in the center of our city. They also left me their savings, which could cover my MBA again. However, I plan to attend a 3-year law school, which is very expensive, or study in Ireland for 2 years, as that degree is highly valued here. They did leave some money for my 3 nephews and nieces. They left some money, along with a small amount in American dollars, for my sisters so they couldn't challenge the will, less than $100 each. My sisters asked me to share the house sale proceeds and the money, which I refused. They involved extended family, and I simply asked where they were when I was taking care of our parents, ending my social life. My girlfriend left me, and I sacrificed my education. Now I am being painted as the bad guy within our close circle while they were traveling overseas. I am refusing to change my stance, but some of my female friends said I should share with my sisters, and that it's misogyny on my part. My sisters told me they will cut me off. I love my nephews and nieces, and it saddens me to think of losing them, but they cannot blackmail me using them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It was your parents' money to do with what they wanted. They wrote their own will and deliberately chose to leave your sisters out of it. Not uncommon when the kids don't step up when the parents are elderly and ill. Your parents did not want them to inherit. They did it to punish your sisters, and they left it to you as a reward for being there for them. So let the will stand and keep the money. You do not owe your sisters a share. I guess it wasn't the culture that said boys take care of parents. Parents repaid the gift the son provided. Not the a-hole. I agree. Keep the house and raise your family in it. Take a few years before getting married, because I doubt you are familiar with how dating is different now. Don't let anyone pressure you into marriage or a family. You lost your youth, and you need to take some time to have fun again. Go to the cheapest college you can with a good reputation. Don't blow all that money on something with little ROI. What you did for your parents was incredibly kind. It's time to live your life for you and not others, though. If people are okay cutting you out of their lives, you aren't that important to them in the first place. Not the a-hole. The sibling that is willing to take care of the parents should always get the bigger share. You sacrificed and you should be set right. It's only fair. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws that I don't care about the resale value of my house? I, 36 male, have a fully paid off house that I inherited 5 years ago from my uncle. He was actually my father's friend, but I always called him my uncle. I had known him since I was born, and he was one of the people I admired most in the world. He worked a hard job and lived life on his own terms. I once asked him when I was little why he wasn't married to a nice lady. He looked at my dad and said that he liked men, not ladies. My dad didn't say anything, so I asked why he didn't marry my dad since they liked each other. I still remember my dad laughing while beer poured out of his nose. My mom found the story hilarious when my dad told her. My uncle passed away in an industrial accident and left everything to me. I'm set up for life. I can't afford not to work. He wasn't rich, but I have no debts while working a job I love and find fulfilling. The house is a bungalow in an older neighborhood. My uncle kept it in fantastic shape, but it's a bungalow built in 1953, so it's dated. I don't care. It's free and clear, and my yard is massive. I have a garden that takes up the back corner and is bigger than most of my friends' entire backyards. I also have a heated double-detached garage with a workshop and all the tools I will ever need. In short, I'm covered for my housing needs, and I'm happy. The poop in the punch bowl is my in-laws. Every time they come over, they complain about my house like I'm on a TV show about fixer-uppers. They judge everything. The color of the tub, avocado green. The floors, original narrow hardwood slats. Basically every single thing you see people on renovation shows change, cover, or rip out. By contrast, my wife and I are happy. We can afford to take vacations without going into debt. We don't have a mortgage, so we can afford to replace our cars when the time comes. We are funding our retirement accounts at a decent rate. I'm not trying to humble brag, I am bragging. I miss my uncle very much, but I'm in a great position in life because of him. Another issue is that due to the housing crisis, my city has rezoned all the older neighborhoods for high-density infill. Every single house that sells here is torn down, and they put up duplexes, fourplexes, eightplexes, skinny houses, or gaudy McMansions. I know that if I ever sell, it isn't going to be a starter house for some young family. They won't be able to afford it. I've explained this to my in-laws constantly. They just don't get it. Her brother does real estate and keeps going on about all the upgrades we should do, like how putting in a new kitchen will keep developers from tearing my home down. Her parents take it as a personal failing that we aren't in debt paying for renovations and additions. They all live in a big house with a mortgage that all three of them pay because they needed a big new house. It's beautiful, but their utilities are like $1,600 a month. That's insane. They were over yesterday and got on us again. I told them that their opinions on our living situation didn't matter to me. My wife joined in on my side and told them to drop it because this is our home where we will raise our kids. She is ride or die. They all got huffy and said they just want the best for us. I responded that I would be willing to do whatever renovations they saw fit if they paid for them. No strings attached. Then they backpedaled and said we needed to pay for the things they want in our house. I just laughed and said no. They are upset that we aren't taking their wishes for us into consideration. Am I the a-hole for telling them I don't care about their opinions on our house? Not the a-hole. It sounds as if they should have been shut down long ago. Why are they still being invited over when they can't keep their opinions to themselves? Clearly, they'd be happier only seeing you at their home, where they can brag about how they can't afford to do anything except pay off their debts. Tell them they can come over when they can respect your choices. Otherwise, the door is too old to be opened for them. Putting in a new kitchen will keep developers from tearing my home down. What? No one is going to come tear your house down around you because you have an old kitchen. And if you ever sold it, it's out of your hands anyway. So what the what? Not the a-hole. That was just one example. Like he thinks anyone that can afford a house these days wants a 72-year-old fixer-upper. I know when I sell, this house will be torn down. He's an idiot. Not the a-hole. You are in the right and you know it. My neighborhood is the same way. Good for you and your wife for not going into debt over trivial stuff. I will say though, to make sure your fuse box is rated for your draw. A lot of older houses aren't ready for all the electrical stuff we use these days. I had a new fuse box put in when I put on my solar. But yeah, that's a good call. Last story. Would I be the a-hole if I faked being sick to skip Christmas Day with most of my family because I didn't ask my stepmom to adopt me after my stepsister asked my dad to adopt her? Yesterday, my stepsister, 9 female, asked my dad to adopt her while everyone was gathered for Christmas Eve. By everyone, I mean me, my dad, my stepsister, my stepmom's family, and my dad's family. My dad was so happy, and my stepsister was ecstatic when my dad said yes. Once that all calmed down, almost everyone was looking at me, 16 female. My stepmom couldn't stop looking at me. It was awkward AF. I had zero plans to ask her to adopt me, and I was freaking out that she might ask to adopt me. It didn't happen, but there were questions being asked, and I was basically encouraged to ask her by my grandparents, some of my aunts, and some of my stepmom's family. By the end of the day, I was so ready for it all to be over. When I wasn't in the room, I could hear people talking about me and telling my stepmom that I'd come around eventually and that I was such a bratty teenager for not realizing what I have in her. It made me want to cause a scene, but I didn't want to make the bratty teenager comment valid. But I was never going to ask my stepmom to adopt me. It would never be something I want. I don't see her as my new second or extra mom, or my mom at all. I don't love her. I'm not that close to her. She never became my parent in my heart or my head. The only reason I call her my stepmom is out of respect, and because I love my dad and he loves her, and he wants us to be a family. My dad and stepmom know how I feel. It was talked about one-on-one and in therapy. My stepsister is different because she was so young and doesn't remember her biological dad. But I knew my mom, had a relationship with her, and had her in my life until I was 9. And I've said it before, nobody new will come in and take on the motherly role in my life. I just know the adoption stuff isn't over though. I know it'll be talked about again today, and I know everyone is going to be watching me and willing me to ask her. I want no part of that, so I'm considering faking sick so I can stay home. My dad will be upset because I figure he might see through me, but I don't think anyone else will. Would I be the a-hole if I do that? Take a mental health day. Tell them you are not feeling good. This is how I survived my childhood. I am still known as the kid that was sick every holiday. No people, I'm just avoiding all the drama. I think your stepsister was put up to asking your dad about adoption by your stepmom. I can't imagine a 9-year-old coming up with that concept on her own and expecting as a result that you would ask for the same. Not the a-hole. Have a talk with your dad this morning. Tell him how you feel. And don't lie or fake sickness. He should be willing and able to shut down any pressure thrown your way by your relatives. She wasn't put up to it. She's talked about wanting to be adopted for a while because one of her friends was, and she hates that my dad isn't her real dad. She calls him dad and always told people he was her dad. But in school, some kids told her he couldn't be her real dad unless he adopted her. Okay, that doesn't change your feelings though. Have that talk with your dad and proceed from there. Explain the reasons about not wanting an adoption. I'll bet he understands. He already knows my reasons. It hasn't really changed anything. Him and my stepmom have known for years, but I know he won't shut it down or help me. He doesn't push me, but he doesn't help either. Am I the a-hole for ending a relationship over long showers? I don't think I'm the a-hole, but my aunt and mom got in my head over the holidays, and now I'm questioning myself. Until early November, I, 28 female, was in a long-term relationship with Kevin, 30 male. We were together for about 18 months. He was planning to move in with me at the end of November when his lease was up. I owned my own place, whereas he had a roommate who was recently engaged. It seemed like good timing all around. Kevin was generally a good guy, funny, charming, easygoing. I thought I was in love, but a few weeks before he was supposed to move in, he made a weird offhand comment about my evening shower habits. Now look, I know some people will find this crazy, but it's not as crazy as it sounds. I have a glorious steam shower with a comfy bench. I take long steams before bed, usually about 15 minutes to steam, 5 to 10 minutes with the water on and off to shower and wash my hair, and another 5 or so for skincare. I'm not hogging the only bathroom or the hot water, and I only do it after everything else is done for the day: work, chores, sex. Anyway, the comment was that I would have to knock off things like that when I was living with him. Which, why? He said I was wasting time and needed to be more present when I lived with a man. Huh? It's 30 to 40 minutes. I can't have 30 to 40 minutes to myself? This led to a longer argument about the various things about myself and my life that I would need to change before he would move in. Like I was doing him a favor by letting him live with me rent-free. Many of the things themselves weren't terrible. Putting my various skincare items away instead of leaving them on the shelf, fair. Not leaving so many shoes in the mudroom, they're on a rack, but whatever. Stopping the composting service, he wants to do it. But a few were non-starters. Not having my 17-year-old brother and his friends over unsupervised by him. And not volunteering at a local shelter that houses men. It was wild. He had never shown any indication of being controlling before, so I tried to talk to him about what he was thinking. He just said that him moving in meant that I was his and needed to act like it. Paraphrasing. I said that meant we weren't moving in together, as I am not anyone's, less articulately than that, and I asked him to leave. We had another conversation a day or so later, but neither of us budged, so we mutually broke it off. I was sad, but not devastated. Mostly just completely confused and questioning my ability to see red flags. There had to have been some, right? I thought I made the right choice. My friends think I made the right choice. My baby brother also thinks I made the right choice. He may be influenced by my 3D printer. But my mom and aunt think I made a huge mistake. It's been a solid 2 weeks of, "You're going to die alone. You're selfish. You have to compromise in relationships. You can't expect him to put up with your single girl schedule and habits. He was such a catch." I feel like my head is going to explode. I thought my mom would at least care that he was cutting off free brother sitting when they travel, but nope. She thinks my ex was right that my brother and his friends shouldn't be in the house alone with a single woman at their age. I babysat most of them when they were younger, for Christ's sake. Am I really unreasonable here? I'm driving myself nuts. We are not getting back together. But was I an a-hole? Now for the top comments. Aren't you lucky he showed his true colors before he moved in? Dear God, she dodged a bullet. Not the a-hole. PSA. You can leave a relationship at any time for any reason. Your mom and aunt freaking suck. Not the a-hole. Totally agree. OP, did you suspect anything off about Kevin in those 18 months? I swear I didn't at the time. In retrospect, he did roll his eyes at some of my hobbies and activities, but I thought it was good-natured, like how I make fun of my best friend's shoe hoarding. I love that for her, but also rib her about it. Apparently, his wasn't good-natured. My dad hated him, which I should probably talk to him about to see if he noticed something I ignored. Maybe he made BS comments to your dad when you weren't around. That's what made me hate my brother's girlfriend. Seemingly innocuous comments designed to tear him down and bond with me by trying to gang up on him. Nothing could have made me hate her more. Respectfully, your mom and aunt can buzz off. A lot of older women were unfortunately indoctrinated to believe that a woman can only be happy if she's with a man, so they truly think you'd be happier with a controlling a-hole than single, independent, and free, especially as you approach your 30s. They can't grasp that we have different choices now. Good for you, OP. Last thing I'll add, never let a man move in with you for free. Ever. That was mistake number 1. He was trying to dig himself out financially from debt from a failed business. We had talked about that being something important to resolve before we got engaged or combined finances. It was only supposed to be for a little while, but you're obviously right. I was trying to be supportive and ended up being unwise. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ending things after finding out my girlfriend was testing me the entire time we were dating? I, 24 male, met my girlfriend, 25 female, 3 months ago through mutual friends. Things moved pretty fast. Lots of time together, constant texting, staying over, and talking about where our relationship could go. She was very open about being emotionally cautious because of her past relationship. I respected that and tried to be patient and consistent. About a month in, she started bringing up small conflicts. Nothing huge, things like me replying too late and similar stuff. Every time, she'd say she wasn't mad, just noting patterns. I apologized, adjusted, and thought we were just learning about each other. Last weekend, she casually admitted that she had been intentionally creating different crappy situations in our relationship to see how I'd react. She said she would delay replying to see if I'd panic, cancel plans last minute to see if I'd get upset, bring up hypothetical jealousy scenarios to measure my security, and other messed up things like that. She told me this like it was totally normal, and said she needed to test emotional safety before committing. She said all her friends do this, and that it's just how women protect themselves. I was honestly stunned. I told her this made me feel manipulated and like I wasn't being given a fair shot, that I thought we were just getting to know each other, not participating in some kind of experiment. She immediately got ultra defensive and said I was failing the tests by reacting badly. She said a secure man wouldn't mind being tested and that my discomfort proved I wasn't ready for a relationship. That was the moment I checked out. I broke up with her the next day. Told her I didn't feel comfortable continuing if honesty wasn't the baseline of our relationship. She accused me of being emotionally immature and said I ran away the moment things got real. Now, a couple of our mutual friends are saying I overreacted and that dating is always a test, whether people admit it or not. I don't believe that intentional manipulation and playing on the nerves of your loved one is real when it comes to true love. Tell me please, am I the a-hole for reacting that way? Not the a-hole. Jesus Christ, no. Not all women do this. How can you actually have a relationship with someone when almost every interaction is a test to see how they'd react? It's disgusting. I'm a woman, and I've never done stuff like this, nor has any woman I know. But then, I'm not friends with manipulative, insecure, immature women. Feels more like a social experiment than a relationship. Not the a-hole. Honestly, testing in a relationship is such a juvenile thing to do. You're good without her. Not the a-hole. Girls who feel the need to test their partners or friends are just that. Immature girls still sitting at the middle school lunch table. Real women who are mature enough to be in a relationship do not play games like this. Go find a real woman to date and possibly build a future with. Leave the adult kids to their corner of the playground. If she's that damaged by a previous relationship, she needs a therapist, not some guy to put through a gauntlet to prove trust. My sister-in-law was a bee who caused lots of unnecessary drama for most of the time I was dating my wife. After we got married, she said it was because she was testing me. I never really looked at her the same way again, even though she acts nice now. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife? So, some important context. I, 26 male, and my now ex-wife, 26 female, were what you'd call high school sweethearts. We got together in 9th grade back in 2015 and were together for approximately 10 years, about 3 of which we were married. As a couple, we had been through thick and thin, a long-distance relationship, toxic parents, and near homelessness. Not everyone is privileged enough to have such a partner. Whatever social or financial standing we had, we achieved together. That only added a sense of unparalleled respect to the already immense love I felt and still feel for her. Anyway, back in March, she broke the news that she was pregnant. This was not in any way a planned pregnancy. I can safely say that a baby was not on any checklist I had at the time, primarily because I felt I wasn't ready to take on the responsibilities of being a father, and because I knew my parents, who are longing for a grandchild, would never acknowledge one I had with my wife. But she single-handedly convinced me that this was a feasible endeavor, and I quote, possibly the best freaking thing that would ever happen to us, period. So we as a couple dove headfirst into this. I cannot properly explain in words what happened next, but any decent parent would understand what I'm trying to say. Ever since I saw my little girl on that ultrasound, I've developed a bond that transcends all others. My wife couldn't have been happier. Fast forward 2 months, late May, and my wife did a complete 180. One afternoon, she abruptly said that she no longer wanted to raise our daughter. I was instantly taken aback, and from that point on, it was true hell for me. My in-laws and I tried to find the reason behind this sudden change and tried to make her feel comfortable with the choice we had initially made in so many words and actions, but to no avail. She was adamant that we put the baby up for adoption as soon as she was born. For clarity, abortion was never on the table for anyone, not only because it's borderline inaccessible where we live, but because it was simply inconceivable, even to the woman who no longer wanted the child. I made it clear to her, in no uncertain terms, that I had no intention whatsoever of putting our baby up for adoption. She then developed this bizarre idea that I had chosen the unborn baby over her, and that she had become insignificant to me. I love my wife, but to be perfectly honest, I've grown to love my daughter just as much, if not more. The last thing I wanted was to choose between my wife and my child, because either way, I'd be losing something irreplaceable. I was afraid I'd grow to resent the person who gave me such an ultimatum. I felt completely alone in this. At the end of the day, her parents were first and foremost her parents. I couldn't go to my own parents for obvious reasons, or to our friends, bless their souls, because they weren't emotionally equipped to handle something of this magnitude. I tried to take her to see a therapist many times, but she refused, saying I was trying to build a case for a future custody fight, which I absolutely was not. Fast forward to December, we had the baby, and she still hadn't changed her mind. At that point, I was convinced that we was no longer feasible, and I filed for divorce and sole custody with an added injunction. I have to mention that I had to go to my parents, the last thing I wanted to do, and oh boy were they giddy, in order to ensure that the district court would take up the case on its own merits, since the chances of a single father on his own getting custody of a newborn are slim to none. The tame version of what happened next is that she flipped out. I can see how, from her perspective, this felt like a deep betrayal. But what other choice did I really have? She called me every name in the book. Even her parents, whom I was closer to than my own, concurred with her. So am I the a-hole? Could I have done something differently? You can divorce anyone for any reason. There have been posts about partners doing sudden, harsh 180s, and sometimes it's related to an undiagnosed medical issue. But regardless, you have to deal with the current version of the person. If she doesn't want to raise your daughter and you do, that's a deal breaker. You chose your daughter, and she's not happy with it, but that's how deal breakers work. It's a tough situation. I'm sorry. Not the a-hole, but you should get a DNA test just in case. Something tells me that your ex didn't change her mind out of nowhere. I second this. Why the sudden 180? Makes no sense. Yeah, I want to believe this is all just postpartum stuff or a hormonal imbalance, but something tells me she wants the kid gone because she knows it's not yours, OP. Get the test done stat. Not just the sudden 180. She doesn't want to raise this kid, but also refuses therapy in case it gets used in a custody battle. Why is she worried about custody arrangements for a child she doesn't want? Why not just say, okay, fine, take the kid and go if you want her so badly? Why insist on adoption when all she has to do to absolve herself of responsibility is give up custody to the parent who wants the child? She, specifically, has a problem with OP raising this particular child, and it'd be a good idea to find out what that reason is. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take a break and instead want a permanent breakup? He, 25 male, told me he wanted a break a few hours before New Year's after knowing I, 25 female, had been in the hospital until that morning for a severe allergic reaction, and he said it right before New Year's dinner with my family. He then went on to say he couldn't imagine a future with me and my health problems because he wouldn't be able to deal with taking care of the house and hypothetical future kids whenever I wasn't feeling well. For context, I don't have the best immune system, but it's not the worst either. I do have rough periods every month and don't usually want to go out when I'm dealing with them, but I've never avoided things like cleaning up after myself or doing the regular things you still do when you have bad cramps or migraines. We did have to cancel a couple of dates with his friends recently because I caught a bad flu strain and my childhood asthma came back full force. But he knew how bad it was, and we still hung out at my place just watching things and cuddling instead. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to take a break and for telling him I couldn't see things the same way after he said he couldn't picture a future with me anymore? He kept saying that he loved me and that he wouldn't see anyone else during the break. But to me, it feels like he's saying we won't work unless I magically recover from all of my health issues, which isn't realistic. I feel like I'd live my life afraid of worse, uncontrollable health complications because he showed me that he wouldn't be able to handle it, even though I've helped him through all of his darkest moments. Not to mention, I opened the bouquet out of curiosity, and they were white and black sunflower-like flowers. Sunflowers are my favorite flower that felt like they were meant for a funeral. I tossed them out, but even my mom and siblings said they felt strange too. Edit added, I deleted another part at the start of the post to avoid making it too long and lost some context. He showed up with a bouquet taped shut, which I initially thought was because I'd been in the hospital, and I even said, you didn't have to do that, thank you. In reality, they were for the break he wanted, which I realized after he said it. I only saw what was inside after he left. It's my fault for ignoring multiple red flags in the past that I mentioned to others under this post, and this was the last straw. Not the a-hole, wanting a break right after you were hospitalized and openly saying he can't imagine a future with you because of your health is basically a soft breakup already. He showed you exactly how conditional his support is, and you're not wrong for believing him. Staying would mean constantly worrying that any illness or flare-up might make you too much for him, and that's not a stable or loving foundation. Choosing a clean breakup instead of dragging out a break where you're expected to magically change is self-respect, not an overreaction. I was really sad to read a post where a nurse said an astronomically high number of men leave their partners when they're hospitalized, dropping them off and not picking them up after surgery, filing for divorce, etc. There are just so many manifestations of abandonment. It was a mind-blowing number, like 60 to 80%. I would have thought that was an outlier. I can't imagine it. They're in their romance era, and he says this? Never let someone like this into your life again. Not the a-hole, OP. OP, the other comments have said almost everything. But you should know that I'm sick in bed, and my husband is downstairs cooking supper for us and listening to a podcast. This is after asking me multiple times today how I was feeling and offering to heat up soup for me for lunch. What is actually wrong with your ex? Here's to hoping that kind of love will eventually find me instead of whatever these 3 years were.